Hi, I'm Stanley. You know, Whilce Portacio has been working at Marvel for, 8 years now, and this is the first time I've met you? I mean, that's ridiculous.
I've actually seen a picture of you, so I feel we're close, you know.
You've seen a picture of me and you still stayed at the job, did you? Well, that's incredible. Listen, it is great pleasure, really, to be here with you. I've been your fan for those 8 years, even though we haven't met. You're not only a penciler, you're an inker. You're even a nice guy. I don't know what you're doing around here.
You've been talking to the wrong people.
But anyway, Whilce, you've been doing the X-Men, right?
Yes, what they officially call the Uncanny X-Men.
That's right. Well, I was going to ask you about that. How many X-Men books are there now?
It seems like there's 5 million. Officially there's Excalibur, there's X-Force, there's X-Factor, and there's Uncanny X-Men, and then there's X-Men.
Son of a...
But,
I mean, the X-Men and the Uncanny X-Men are two different ones.
They're two different teams, but see, the team I'm working on, the Uncanny X-Men, or what we could call the original X-Men, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's made up of most of, it's Marvel Girl, Bobby Drake, Iceman, Warren Worthington. He's now the Archangel.
Oh, he's now the Archangel, right?
Yeah, he's a little more. It's sinister times, so he's got to be a little more sinister.
And who else is a part of the group?
She's not a part of the original team, but there's Storm. She took after Scott, so you could say she's Scott's stand-in.
You know, I just had a very depressing thought. If anybody is watching this who doesn't know the X-Men, we've been talking gibberish for the past couple of minutes. But anyway, I want to talk to you, and I want to know all about you. But at the same time, I want to show a lot of your artwork. So for those who are not familiar with Whilce Portacio's artwork, would you like to just hold something there up and let them see just the extent of your talent? I don't want to embarrass you, but you have a few things here I think people might like to look at.
Okay, actually, what I wanted to show here, what a lot of people don't get to see, are some of the different steps.
Well, let's let them get to see it.
Like for instance, I don't know if they can see this, but this is what we call a pencil sketch, and this is done full size. We actually do it this size, 11 by 17, so that when they shrink it down comic book size, it hides all the mistakes.
With your case, there aren't too many. Now, let's just mention, this is your artwork.
Yeah, this is...
I mean, you didn't just grab a page from somewhere. You drew this. Okay.
But, okay, this is what they call a pencil. So these are just what it means. I took a pencil and I drew these. And then someone like Scott Williams comes along and he inks it. And I don't know if you can really see it, but what's neat is when you know, artists are personalities among themselves. When you get a penciler and an inker that gel together, who, you know, kind of like good friends.
That's the result.
Yeah, and see, if you look real close, it's pretty much exactly what I penciled. And I mean, you know, artists or temperamental, everything has to be perfect.
Yeah, I know, it's tough talking to you. You're just riddled with temperament. You're a tough guy.
Notice the brows.
Let me ask you this, Whilce. You used to be an inker, didn't you? You started as an inker.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to be a penciler, so I filled in as an inker.
Well, you sure learned quickly. Now, of course, the penciler does it in pencil. The reason the drawings are inked so that they end up like this is that's the way they have to be for the engraver. They can't engrave the drawings if they're just in pencil, I mean, or not as well.
Right, I mean, if you've ever, I mean, you're in school, take your number 2 pencil and you scribble, you get a nice tone. And, okay, this is a Xerox of the original pencils, and you'll see it doesn't pick it up as one different. Yeah, the camera doesn't pick it up as one flat tone. So inker has to come in and actually he has a tough part because you get shades and stuff like this where I can just ease up on a pencil and it goes to gray, goes to white, and you have a little fun, you know, easy time. The inker actually, because he lays down an ink line and it's there. So he's got to come up with like little hatches, what they call, or cross hatches, to recreate what I'm doing in pencil. So
I see what you mean. In pencil, you can get all sorts of tones of gray, shades of gray,
very
depending
easily
how heavily or lightly you lean on the pencil. But with ink, you've just got that black India ink. So to make it gray, you've got to have thin lines with little space between them, and so forth. The inking, there's another interesting thing about inking. an inker can make a penciler's work look better, can make it look worse, or can make it look about the same. The inker has a lot of power in that respect. And but since this isn't really a course in comic book art, I see you have something else there that might be interesting for people to look at.
I like to concentrate on structure. And this is a cover I did for the certain character, and this was going to be painted. And so the painter had to see what was underneath everything, because what a painter does is he with color, with dark values, with light values, he creates volume, he creates depth. So in order to create that, he has to know what he's creating.
Right.
You know, so that's what this is. This is basically a preliminary drawing with all the muscles outlined and everything, so that he'll know exactly. It's kind of like a map. He knows exactly where everything is.
A guide for the
right.
colorer, yeah.
And then I come in.
Here's the good part.
And then I fully pencil it, showing him what kind of lighting I wanted to create a mood. Because I mean, you know, you could stretch the character, the pose and everything, and make him look dynamic and everything. But
you know something? This is like an actor reading lines without
Right.
expression.
Right.
This is like the actor reading the lines, but now you have the expression and you have the emphasis.
right,
Yeah.
and that's where I have the most fun, just creating a mood.
So the first thing you do is just do the basic drawing, but then with your shading and your lighting, you can emphasize what you want and you can play up what you want and get the drama. And also, and now you say this was actually colored.
This was supposed to be painted.
And it wasn't?
No, well, it's still here.
Oh, you mean they paint right over this drawing?
There are different methods, and for this piece, if it went through all the stages, it would have been painted on the actual piece itself.
Well, let's pause for a moment with the artwork, because we don't want to spoil the viewer too much, but just give him too many wonderful things. And let me ask a little bit about you for a moment, Whilce. Where are you from originally?
I was born in the Philippines, the Philippine Islands. But see, my father, who is Filipino too, my whole family is Filipino, so we're pure Filipino. He was in the U.S. Navy. So when I was 2 years old, we were transferred to the States, and all around the Pacific Rim, all around the West Coast. So I've always been a West Coast laid-back kind of guy. But when I got into high school, I started entering contests, national
Drawing
awards,
contests?
poster contests, because I think that's one thing. I've seen so many young artists who have a lot of talent, but no confidence.
Yeah.
So they're always second guessing themselves.
Yeah.
So they take a nice drawing and they change it because they don't feel it's right yet. That really kind of hurts me. I mean, because there's so much talent there, and it could be wasted depending on which way the guy goes. So I entered a lot of contests, and I hope a lot of kids would enter poster contests, yearbook cover contests. If there's a National Scholastic Art Awards show, which I entered all the time, when you start winning those, then you start building the confidence, and you start getting sure of yourself
How
as
old
an
were
artist.
you when you knew you wanted to draw, when you started doing it?
When I was in first grade, you know how the teacher comes around, gives you a piece of paper,
Yeah.
gives you crayons, say, "All right, kids, draw something." So everybody would draw something. Teacher will come around, "Oh, Patty, that's real nice. What is it?" And the kid will explain. She goes, "Oh yeah, Bobby, what's that?" And again, I remember she came to me and she goes, "Oh wow, Will, did you see the Saturn V rockets lift off yesterday?" And I go, "Yeah." See, so that kind of clicked that. Everybody else, you had to ask, "What are you drawing?" But she knew what I was drawing, so
I see.
from there I started.
So you said, "Hey, I think I've got something."
Yeah.
Isn't that something? So you always knew you wanted to draw, huh?
Yeah, actually, one thing kind of, I don't know if you can follow this, but it's also with the way I like to draw. It's also tied in with the way I like to construct story or approach a script. I like to analyze things, and I like when things fall into piece. Together.
Yeah.
Like for instance, a body is made up, of shoulders, biceps, triceps, forearms, and all those pieces go together to make a whole. And when
They better.
they're better, yeah. But when they fall in together, then for me, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I loved geometry because you get that triangle and everything's there except one little angle or one little length of a line,
Yeah.
and you got to figure that out. And I always loved just when things fell into place.
You know, it's interesting. I've interviewed a number of artists now on this world-famous series of ours, and most people think an artist is a guy who has some talent. He can draw, you know, it comes out good. Everybody I've interviewed, and of course I'm only interviewing the greats, everybody, they're real deep thinkers about this stuff. It isn't just, well, I can draw and there it is and there's a picture, but there seems to be almost a philosophy behind it. And I know it'll sound corny, almost a poetry. I mean, there is something, it means so much to the artist, and it's so much more than just, well, I drew a picture, I filled up a space, now I'll get paid. You know, and it's interesting. Let me ask you one other thing. This is really apart from everything else, but we've had a number of Filipino artists working for us at our comic book company and our animation studio. I would say just about all of them are superb artists. And is there something special about the Philippines? I mean, do they concentrate on artwork there or something? We get more Filipino good artists than from any other country.
I think, you know, and you know, this is just me supposing.
I know you can't talk for the whole country.
Right. But real briefly, the Philippines has been conquered and conquered and conquered and conquered by the Japanese, by the Spaniards, everybody. So the mood in the Philippines has always been what I call apolitical. You know, they've seen governments come and go, no matter how drastic. So everybody concentrates on personalities, on relationships. And I think any artist is actually boiled down that. He's showing himself. You know, in every drawing he does, I mean, a confident artist is constantly showing how he thinks the world is. I mean, if he's in a depressed mood, he'll show depressed drawings. But he's, again, showing himself. And the Philippines is very much like that. It's very emotional.
Oh, that's the word. Because there's a lot of emotion in all of your artwork, and all of the Filipino artists I know, there is emotion in it. There's a lot of feeling.
Yeah, one of the things I loved about the Philippines is that with the language, you can talk for 10 minutes, you can talk for an hour and not really say anything. But there's a lot of
like
emotions. But see, you're one of the best.
But there is that emotion there.
Yeah, it's the emotion. So I think that carries through with people who seem to have a talent, or you know, if you believe in God-given talents. They're in this society which is very emotional, and when you do something nice, everybody reacts. Your friends are always there. So again, like what we were discussing earlier, the confidence builds early, because you always. I mean, everybody always jokes with Asian families that you always have 5 million relatives. And I actually went to the Philippines and, you know, meet a nice girl, talk a bit, get along real well. Mom comes in, oh, I'd like to introduce you to your cousin here.
I know what you mean. Well, that's great. And your dad was in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually got to see a lot of different places that I wouldn't have naturally have seen.
Got an interesting background. Well, I don't want to keep people in suspense too long. You know, we're going to get to your artwork. We're going to get you over to that drawing board in just a minute. But I just want to ask you one last thing. You just got back from the Philippines, didn't you? You were touring. And what were you doing there?
That was very interesting because you know, you always hear that the Philippines is a depressed economy, and everything's going wrong there. Last summer, a comic book dealer came over to the United States, and he invited me over, fly me over there, and do a couple shows. I went to the Philippines, and they met me at the airport. I had a reception at one of the military camps.
Yeah.
I did TV shows, I did radio shows, I did interviews. They really love American comics there.
Yeah. You know something? They seem to love it. Love American comics all